Hi, it's Louise Tanner-Stokes from the Anti-Dieting Revolution. And this week I wanted to talk about why it's time to take the morality out of eating and stop attaching morals to food and to ourselves, because this is the most unhelpful attitude I see people have, is when they attach morals to the food that they eat or to themselves about how they've eaten. Okay. I hear people say things like, I've been so bad, I ate some cake, or I ate too much cake, or I've been really good because I've followed my diet plan. And the reality is, it's just food, okay? Now, we see it all the time in marketing. Food is referred to as sinful or wicked or naughty. Or on the other side, you have the kind of the diet products. Maybe they're low fat or they're sugar free and things like that. And they're sold as being virtuous or good for you. Or they're labeled as this healthy superfood. And then, of course, they make them more expensive then as well. But it's really not helpful, and it's all just food. Okay. The first thing just to think about is nutrition isn't as simple as some foods are good and some foods are bad. Okay. A healthy balanced diet is about the overall balance of everything that you eat and drink. It's about what you do most of the time, what you eat most of the time, not that day where you spent all day eating donuts. Okay. That one day probably won't make a big difference in the bigger picture. It's about what you do most of the time. And also it depends on, what are your current needs as well. Back when I was working as a dietitian in a hospital, I was working with a lot of patients who were malnourished. They were losing weight, they were struggling to eat, they were really poorly, which was making them, need more energy, but they were struggling to eat, so they weren't meeting those requirements. In that situation, a salad is going to do no good, okay? Because you'd need to eat loads of salad or fruit or veg to get all the calories that you need. And likewise, a big bowl of pasta would be no good as well, because they didn't have the appetite. Okay, they would struggle to eat that amount of food. What they needed was the fat or protein rich foods. Okay, so foods that have a lot of calories, a lot of energy in small amounts. So the things that we were encouraging them to have: extra puddings, milky drinks between meals. That was what they needed, to help them get the energy and the nutrients they needed, at least the protein that they needed to just keep themselves as well as possible until they recovered from their illness. So have a think about how you're looking at food, whether you're looking at food as good or bad, and is that really helping you? Okay. And this good or bad labeling of food, okay, just it leads to overeating. Okay, so that's another reason why we need to just ditch all this morality. When we talk about some food as being good, and we start to think of it as unlimited, and you think, oh, I can eat as much as I like, but you're not learning to listen to your body as to whether or not you actually need to eat this food, whether you're actually hungry. You're not learning to follow your hunger cues or your appetite, which will go up and down all over the place depending on what you're doing. You're not exploring the reasons behind why you're eating. Because you might be wanting to eat because you're thirsty, or because you want comfort, or because you're not dealing with some kind of problem. You're turning to food as a crutch, as a way of distracting yourself. And what would be better would be actually learning to deal with your problems, or learning to manage comfort eating. And then on the other side, when you label food as bad, you think it's banned, you think you're not allowed it, it's naughty. And then you want it more. I know I do, definitely. If I was to tell myself I wasn't allowed to eat something, I just want it more, because it's always the fun stuff like cake and chocolate or crisps or, sweets and things like that we say, that's banned, I shouldn't eat that. So when you tell yourself you're not allowed to have it and you want it more, then it can lead to cravings, which can lead to binges, because when you have the food, you feel guilty, you think you failed, you think I may as well just give up, may as well just give up trying to eat better, may as well just give up trying to make changes and just carry on eating, and then you have way more than you would have just had if you let yourself had a little of what you fancy. So forget all this labeling food as good or bad, and looking at nutrition as being that simple, because that doesn't help you. And then the next reason why we need to ditch this whole morality that we attach to food is you start seeing yourself as good or bad depending on how you've eaten or how you're exercising. So you start thinking that your exercising or your eating habits decide whether you're a good or bad person. Okay, that makes no sense. Okay, whether you're a good or a bad person depends on how you treat people. It depends on how what actions you take, what you do. Okay, it's nothing to do with your eating habits. Food is just food. Food is fuel, it's nutrients, it's fun. It's nothing to do with being good or bad. Okay, this perspective that you take about food leads to an unhealthy relationship with food, because you start to do things like punishing yourself if you haven't eaten the way you think you ought to eat. You're more likely to end up overeating to try and feel better. You're more likely to turn to food for comfort. When food becomes this kind of crutch, because you forget that food is food, and it becomes this kind of reward, this thing that you use to make yourself feel better. And it takes over your life in a negative way, okay? Because you're always thinking about food and what you're allowed to eat and what you're not allowed to eat, and can I make myself feel better with this food. And it erodes your self-esteem and your relationship with your body as well, because you're always thinking about whether you've been good or bad, depending on something which we just need to do, which is just eat. It's something we just need to do every day. And even if you're eating a donut, it's still just food. It's going to give you some nutrients, okay? Okay, it's just fat and sugar and maybe a little bit of protein, but it's still something. It's not bad, okay? You're not bad because of the way you've been eating. So start to notice where you attach morality to food, and then start to question it. Ask yourself, how does it make you feel when you label food in that way, or when you label yourself in that way? And how does it help you with your goals? How does it help you make changes that will help you reach those goals when you do this? And just start to question that. That's the first place, is noticing what's going on. And then the next thing to do is to start questioning it. Okay, and as ever, if you need help, I'm here. Get in touch. And it's time to ditch all of this dieting nonsense, because this is all part of the dieting bullshit that we've learned from the dieting industry. It's time to ditch all that dieting, because you absolutely deserve better. Take care, and I'll see you soon.